All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're heading up into the cool highlands of Sri Lanka to uncover the story of a national park that honestly kind of breaks all the rules. It's one of the country's most treasured spots, and believe it or not, it's also one of its absolute tiniest.
So, you're probably wondering, just how tiny are we talking about? Well, get this, 27 hectares. That's less than a third of a single square kilometer. To put that into perspective for you, we're talking about an area that's smaller than a lot of city parks you might have been to. And yet, it has the official title of National Park. Wild, right?
And that really brings us to the whole point of this Explainer, doesn't it? How can an area this small be considered so important? I mean, what secrets could this little patch of land possibly be hiding that would earn it such a grand title? Okay, so here's how we're going to unpack this. We'll start by setting the scene in its unique highland location. Then, we'll get into what makes it such a gem. After that, we'll look at its history of protection, talk about what it's like to actually visit, and finally, we'll touch on the ongoing fight to keep this little haven safe. All right, first up, the Highland Jewel. Look, to really get why this park matters, you first have to understand its setting. So let's pinpoint exactly where in the world we are. This park is a pretty rare kind of ecosystem called a montane forest. Now, this is not your average forest. I want you to picture this: a cool, misty climate, just dense green vegetation absolutely everywhere, and trees literally draped in moss. It's this very specific, almost magical kind of environment you only find way up at high altitudes. But what's really surprising is that this incredible forest isn't off in some super remote, hard-to-reach corner of the island. Nope. It's right there in the heart of the central province, nestled right up against the famous town of Nuwara Eliya. And that closeness to people, well, that's a huge part of its story, both for its appeal and for its biggest challenges. Okay, section 2, the facets of the gem. So we know it's tiny, and we know where it is. But why is it so valuable? Let's start digging into the different reasons that make this place a true ecological jewel. You know, the main reason for its importance is actually pretty simple. Even with its tiny footprint, Galway's land is a certified biodiversity hotspot. We're not just talking about a patch of trees here. This is a vibrant, super concentrated pocket of life. So what does biodiversity hotspot really mean in this case? Well, let's just start with the birds. The park is the year-round home for about 30 different native bird species, but that's not even the whole story. On top of those 30, it's also a vital pit stop for another 20 species of migratory birds. I mean, think about that. It turns this tiny little park into an absolute powerhouse of bird life. It's basically a paradise for bird watchers. And we're not just talking about common birds either. We're talking about some really notable residents, like the endemic Sri Lanka white-eye, the very distinctive yellow-eared bulbul, and the really colorful Indian blue robin. For any nature lover, that's a dream checklist. So what this all points to is the park's really fascinating double life. On one hand, from an ecological standpoint, it's this critical sanctuary for protecting Sri Lanka's unique highland biodiversity. But on the other hand, because it's so easy to get to, it's also the perfect outdoor classroom for things like ecotourism and education. All right, on to section 3, a legacy of protection. Thankfully, all of this unique value didn't go unnoticed. The park actually has a pretty long history of being officially recognized and protected. Its importance was first put on the map way back in 1938, when it was declared a wildlife sanctuary. Then, much more recently in 2006, it got a major upgrade to full-on national park status. Now, that was a really critical step because it gave the park a much higher level of legal protection and really cemented its role as a national treasure. Okay, section 4, experiencing Galway's land. I bet all this talk is making you wonder what it's like to actually see it for yourself. So how would you go about it? Let's get into some of the practical stuff. Like with any trip out into nature, timing is pretty much everything. If you're looking for the best weather, you'll want to aim for the dry season, which runs from about December to April. But if you're all about the birds, then the absolute prime time is between November and February, because that's right in the middle of the migratory season. And getting there is really an adventure in itself. Most people will fly into Colombo, and from there you've got a choice. You can take a really scenic 5 to 6 hour drive up into the cool highlands, or, and this is a big one, you can hop on what many people call one of the most beautiful train rides in the world, which will take you to Nuwara Station, just a stone's throw from the park.
So once you've arrived, the experience is all about just soaking it in. Of course, birdwatching is the main event for a lot of folks, but you can also explore the well-marked nature trails, keep an eye out for other wildlife like small mammals and butterflies, join an educational tour, or, just find that perfect spot for an amazing photo.
And that brings us to our final section, protecting the haven. Like any precious gem, Galway's land is fragile, and being so close to a town and all that human activity means it faces a really unique set of serious threats to its survival.
The park is really in a constant battle. It's up against major threats, like the town getting closer and closer, pollution, and of course, the broader effects of climate change. But there are dedicated people fighting back. They're doing things like regular wildlife monitoring, running community awareness programs, and carefully maintaining the trails to protect the forest, even from the impact of its own visitors.
So when you boil it all down, Galway's land is really the perfect example of a small but mighty natural haven. Yeah, its tiny size is what makes you go, wow, but it's that immense biodiversity that makes it so important. And really, this incredible little park leaves us with a big final thought. It proves that immense value can be packed into the smallest of spaces. It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other tiny, absolutely vital ecosystems are out there, hiding in plain sight, just waiting for us to finally notice them?